While this season shares the same schedule as the Spec Racer Ford community and has encouraged those drivers to come join, it's clear that doing so has triggered an influx of fast new talent. But last round was at a track that comes free with the iRacing service and is terribly familiar to all the competitors. This week throws a longer, older, and much more treacherous circuit at the drivers that some might not know as intimately. Will it swing the advantage back in favor of the regulars, or will the newcomers continue to impress? We'll find out soon as we get ready to watch round 2 of the Lotus 49 World Cup, and you'll see it all live here on the Global SimRacing channel. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is Johan Vandenbelt. Behind the scenes is our director, the Dr. Amjad Yaman, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Johan, this is a track that I say fits Lotus very well considering how much history there is here. A history that includes Formula One even.
Yeah, exactly. Well, the history of Sebring International Raceway begins in 1950. The track occupies the site of a World War II airfield, and after the war, engineers looked how they could repurpose the runways. Now, these stretches of road were converted to stage a 6-hour endurance event on New Year's Eve in 1950, and thus Sebring was born. But the track is probably most known for its 12 Hours of Sebring race, which was hosted for the first time in 1952. Over the years, the track has seen a bunch of layout changes, but it's actually quite interesting to search the layout of the very first 12 Hours of Sebring, as the block-like structure of the track is certainly unique. Almost every corner is 90 or 45 degrees, with the old S's as the only exception. As you said, Joe, a few years later in 1959, the United States hosted its first official F1 Grand Prix at Sebring. And even though this was a very exciting race, with the margin of victory only being 0.6 of a second, the marriage between the track and Formula One only lasted 1 year. Nowadays, Sebring is just over 6 kilometers long, hosting a combination of 17 turns. The track combines several high-speed corners with a few technical slower sections. There's very little camber and elevation change, but there's a rough surface the drivers have to deal with today. The track still runs for a part on old sections of World War II concrete, and the seams between these chunks of concrete will make it a bumpy ride for the drivers. So to give you viewers a look of what these drivers will experience today for 16 laps, let's fasten our seatbelt and jump on board for a lap around Sebring.
All right, we've got Ben Zocco in the GSRC Lotus 49, so let's do a lap around Sebring. Coming up the front stretch, you've got to be brave and bring it right up to the wall to give yourself a nice wide entry into one. And the need for some guts doesn't stop there, because the bumps through this fast blind corner mean finding the power is going to be even trickier. If you apply it smoothly, you don't have much time before you're braking for 3, which can sometimes offer passing opportunities. From there, you're tiptoeing through 4 and 5 and avoiding the tall curbs on either side so that you don't upset the car. But then you're met with the hair-raising challenge of Big Bend. This car does not like turning and accelerating, so you'll be fighting it all the way to the straight. It'll be important to be carrying speed because you've got another great chance for a pass in the hairpin. But as always, be careful about how hard you push it because you'll lose gobs of time if you outbrake yourself in your attempts to overtake someone. After that, you've got the S's of Fangio, which in most cars can be flat out. Not so in the Lotus. Tiny little lifts are needed to keep it together. That kind of makes Cunningham a lot less feasible as a place for a pass because most drivers won't want to risk going side by side on the run up to here. Likewise, the trip through Collier is mostly a case of feathering the throttle, and then the braking for Tower needs you to be pinpoint accurate. Expect to see a few drivers lose it when they dip a wheel off into the dirt on entry. Do your best to get back on the gas because you don't want to be vulnerable on your way into Bishop. This is another case of the Lotus being one of the few cars where you have to slow up for these kinks, and you can see just how harrowing it is to carry speed through here. It's going to make lining up for Jean Dambienne all the more cumbersome. And getting offline through this sequence will really hurt your lap time because if you can't carry your speed through and out of Le Mans, the Ullman Straight is going to be painful. You'll just wind up watching all of your competitors with a better run stream on by. However, coming up is an even bigger concern, Sunset Bend. The kinked entry is tough in modern cars, so you can imagine the scary nature of it in this one. But once you do get it slowed up, then there's the challenge of trying to put the power down on this long bend while the outside barrier keeps creeping closer and closer. Hopefully, you've kept it all together and have now finished a lap around Sebring. There you see a relatively long lap around here, even in this very fast car along the straights. Now, let's take a glance at the Drivers' Championship now that we've got one round under our belts. And you can see David Gasper coming over with the SRFs has proven he is going to be one to give a good challenge to Mick Claridge, as he's currently 5 points ahead. Ove Trangarade with a third gets himself into the top 5. Dave Price, even with his speed, now has all these fast drivers to compete with. And Dimitrios Houdeluri, another one who came in with the SRFs to complete our top 5. What about the Amateur Championship down there in the F2 there, Johan?
Yeah, it was an exciting race in the F2 Championship last time around. The last season's champion, Hideki Koifisto, couldn't beat Matt Wright, who was leading that championship out there at Okayama and is currently holding strong with 12 points. Hideki Koifisto behind him, and Stef Veenhoff, the Dutch driver, making his debut in the Lotus 49, finished strong with a 3rd place in Japan. Tony Teolis is 7 points behind in P4, and Antonio De Marchis is currently P5 in the F2 Championship.
They also keep track of a Constructors' Championship, also sometimes referred to as the Nations Cup here in the World Cup. Germany currently leads the way thanks to Gaspers, with the United Kingdom for the first time in a while not leading the points. See if Mick can do anything about that with any of his fellow compatriots. Norway sitting in 3rd, Greece in 4th, and the United States sitting in 5th. So a little bit different from what we saw in the drivers' points. What about what we're up for today? We talked a lot about the track, Johan, but what about the actual race itself?
Yeah, well, as you just mentioned, Joe, this is round 2 of the new season. 12 races we do this time around. 2 watermarks. It means that there are 2 drop weeks. The worst 2 results will be removed from the season standings. The race today will be 16 laps, in which the drivers will use an open setup. That means that they can tweak it any way they want to their liking to really benefit the car as much as possible on this difficult track. We have a new scoring system as well since last season, as you can see on the bottom, with 40 points going to the victor, 35 for P2 and 30 for 3rd place.
Now, we're starting to get some times on the board. Trangarade currently has the pole, but we're watching Mick Claridge right now as he works his way onto the Ullman Straight. He's led just slightly by the guy who won last time, Gaspers. Trying to find him, actually. Where did he go? I had him for a second ago.
He's currently in Sunset Bend, David Gaspers, a little bit in front of Mick Claridge. Both coming over the line almost at the same moment. David Gaspers was quick in practice and immediately goes on top. 7/10 quicker at the moment than Dimitris Houdeludis, but Mick Claridge isn't that far behind, Joe.
He's only got about 3/10 on him. Let's see what he can do in the second lap as we watch Dimitrios work his way around on his second lap in a nicely painted Honda. They like these old liveries. Now, and Mick Claridge has given up on his second lap. So he is going to do no better than the outside of the front row here.
Interesting. Did he maybe make a little mistake?
I saw a slide going through turn 1. He must have thought it was bad enough that he didn't really think it's worth giving it a go. And Gaspers has given up on his second lap as well. This leaves Dimitrios Houdeluri, the Greek, is currently trying to see if he can take pole away from both fast drivers.
But he has a big gap to bridge, so 7/10 behind the German Gaspers. That's a big gap, even though it's a quick or a long lap time. He might be able to do it with only 2 more corners to go. I have to say, Joe, we were looking at practice times a little while ago. The times in qualifying this time around are a lot quicker. I think the weather conditions might be a little bit more favorable, as David Gaspers went only almost 2 seconds quicker than he did in practice earlier today.
Dave Price moves himself into 3rd as we continue to ride on board with Houdeluri. He comes around Sunset Bend. Can he improve to get onto the front row? The answer is no.
Just too short to beat Dave Price there. Only 7 thousandths of a second behind Price in P4.
Thiel gets himself up into 8th. Now, here's something that we haven't talked about yet, but I think is worth mentioning. Dudagnon, who was not the fastest in practice either, has not gotten a lap time in here in qualifying.
No, he tried one lap, didn't get a lap time, and I think he might have had an off track on the second lap time as well. So that's not a lot of times that we see Dudillon, the Frenchman, starting all the way from the back. But at least it will put some extra excitement in the mix as he has to battle his way forward through the field.
There's Johnny Bell improving up to 17th, and I believe that's going to be it for our qualifiers. Yep, everybody out there has finished their 2 laps or is not on track. So let's go through our grid. David Gaspers on the pole once again, and he's got 3/10 over Mick Claridge. Both drivers, interestingly, only taking a single lap. Dave Price took 2 laps to get himself into 3rd, and then row 2 completed by Dimitrios Houdeludi. Ove Trengerade will start way down in 5th. Unusual for him to be that far down in qualifying. Marco Kika starts in 6th next to him. Billy Bob Wright with a 7th place qualifying, followed by Gary Teal in 8th. Richard Morin starts in 9th, and Ben Zocco, who ran our lap guide, will complete our top 10.
In P11, the Dutch driver Stef Veenhoff P3 in the Formula 2 Championship. He will start his race just outside of the top 10. He starts in front of Daniele Guttuso on row 6. Tony Teolis starts behind him in unlucky P13, just in front of Hideki Koivisto. Andres Bruno, the Brazilian driver, starts at the inside of row 8, just in front of Don Good. On row 9, we can find Johnny Bell and a newcomer to the series, Bogdan M. Dumitrescu. And they start just in front of the 2 drivers that didn't manage to set a lap time out there in qualifying, Michel Dudillon and Jeffrey A. Eli.
Now, I do have confirmation from Dudillon in the chat. He had an off track on both laps, and unfortunately, I can't say one of the words. I do know enough French to know that that one is not allowed, and I cannot excuse that with pardon my French either. So as we watch the cars grid up, we've got an interesting few laps here in Sebring as the lights come up for round 2 in the Lotus 49 World Cup. Green flag is out as they get off the line. Gasper's looking good. Mick Claridge a little bit under threat on the inside from Dave Price as they come down to turn 1. Everybody getting on the binders. It's a long blind sweeper. Looking back, a little bit of 3 wide through the pack, but it's so wide that everybody is able to get through clean.
A little bit of contact almost between Don Good and Johnny Bell, but Don Good chose to go.
Mick Claridge contact, Mick Claridge contact with Dave Price, and he gets sent off track.
Dudillon as well behind him.
Try and pull the replay up. It was coming out of turn 3 into the 4-5 sequence. Just got a little bit too close. Claridge with his brand new paint is going to have to climb through the field.
And I mentioned Dudillon as well. He had contact. He had a great start in the back of the field. He was battling with Andres Bruno. He was sent through the grass, but he can continue and just managed to overtake Mick Claridge down into the hairpin.
There we caught a glance of Michelle there as we come back live and look at Dave Price try to give chase on the car of Dave Gaspers. Mick was incredibly lucky that that car did not go completely over. He got well up on 2 wheels with that contact. Price, though, under threat from the Greek. Dimitrios already right up his tailpipe.
Exactly. I don't think Dave Price will be looking too far forward. I think he's more looking into his mirrors. He's defending the car, defending the inside when they go to Le Mans. But this exit has to be good because this is one of the long straights where you can try to make an overtake going to Sunset Bend. Dimitrios trying a wider line, trying to get more speed here. Dave Price driving away a little bit better. It seems like he had a better exit. Dave Price is currently over 2 seconds behind David Gaspers, Joe. That's an immense gap that the German has formed in only 1 lap of racing.
Yeah, and this is exactly what Gaspers wanted as we get a car. Billy Bob Wright going off in the background. Oh, he almost gets hit by Andres Bruno. We'll get a replay here of Billy Bob. After he spins, I wonder if we could get an onboard because, wow, that had to have been a shock to see that car coming across his bow. Just all by himself, overcorrected. And as he tries to get a turnaround, watch this. Woo! That's a little bit of a shocker.
It's very exciting for him, maybe a little bit too exciting. Exciting as well between Stef Veenhoff and Tony Teolis, the two drivers that started well on the latter half of the field. They fought their way up to P8 and P9. Stef Veenhoff being able to pass Tony Teolis through the SS section. Dutch driver currently in P8, while Tony Teolis gets hit from behind.
That was Richard Morin. He dipped his wheels into the dirt, tried to get it slowed up in time, and just couldn't keep it out of the car ahead.
Very unlucky for both Canadian drivers there. Richard Morin is in the pits. His day seems over. He hit the ball hard there as we go on board with him.
Yeah, that is a case where I think sorry won't cut it, unfortunately. Now, fans of Dudignon, his progress through the field is essentially mimicking Mick Claridge. They're nose to tail at the moment in 12th and 13th and working on Teolis. There we see them on screen, the blue car being Dudignon, the yellow of Mick Claridge just ahead of him. Oh, and a bit of a mistake for Teolis. Could give an opportunity, but Claridge not close enough to take advantage. Tries to set him up through Le Mans, and Dudignon has other thoughts trying to get by his old rival here.
Great battle there. Tony Teolis probably knows that the two people behind him are quite a bit quicker. He has every right, of course, to try and battle. He takes a wider line through Sunset, though, maybe to let them pass. Side by side, that's difficult here. This is a really bumpy corner. Mick Claridge stays on the inside, though, and Michel Dudignon can immediately follow.
Well, Tony was going to squeeze him for a moment, but he gave him just enough space. Nice job by all drivers to get through there. Those wondering what paint scheme there that Mick has got on his car, apparently mimicking an old Dodge Challenger, we understand.
It's certainly something new to get used to, but it doesn't look bad on these 49s, I think, Joe.
It looks beautiful, I think. Got a bit of a battle for P3. Houdeludi, remember, was trying to challenge Price for second. Instead, now he's got to look in the mirrors as well, because Ove Trangerade has been on the charge. That old Honda car has hunted down Dimitrios as they come up to Cunningham here. Not quite close enough for a pass, but certainly threatening.
Yeah, exactly. Ove Trangerade even tried a move at the beginning of this lap, couldn't make it stick yet. But as you can see, Dimitrios not able to drive the same pace as Dave Price is currently, although they are catching up to the Dave Price as we speak.
I almost wonder if Dave is sort of the cork in the bottle here, because look at the train that's starting to form. It's not just Ove. Marco Kika is back there sitting with a nice top 5 for the Postman.
It's interesting. I'm looking at the last lap times. I almost feel that Dave Price made a mistake this lap time around, because Dave was over half a second quicker than Dimitrios in the previous lap. The gap has shrunken dramatically.
Well, he's got a good exit onto the Ullman straight, and that has stretched it back out. So Dimitrios has no answer up to Sunset Bend. They work their way around the 180-degree corner with all of its bumps. See how they handle the exit. Both of them smooth on the power, but the Greek still under threat from the Norwegian. And up at the top of your screen, you can see David Gaspers setting the fastest laps. This is pretty much his MO from what we saw the last race. Get out front and dominate.
I mean, this is what we've seen Sebastian Vettel do time and time again when he was driving for Red Bull. And once he is at the front, no one can threaten him. He was over 7 tenths quicker than Dave Price last time around. So David Gaspers is really trying to put the pedal to the metal at the moment and make that gap grow as much as he can.
Certainly taking some inspiration from his countryman, F1 champion. Oh, as things get awful close there for second place. Dave Price, I'm surprised he didn't defend into the hairpin. Whatever the case, he still comes out in second ahead of Dimitrios. So right on board with Ove, just behind those two.
We don't have to go to them yet, but behind in the field, Daniele Guttuso is getting visitors. Mick Claridge and Michel Dudignon getting very close to the driver.
A little bit of a peek inside from Mick Claridge, and he's given space. As they come through cutting. Oh, there's a car spun as he has to go off track to avoid. Does he stay out of the wall? Just barely.
It was Stef Veenhoff spinning from A-plate. To go to replay here, Joe.
just got on the power a little too hard and overcorrects, and it loops around him and stops right in the middle of the track. Great job by everybody to avoid him.
That's exactly. As we go to on board of Nick, just look at how that car suddenly appears. Nick, of course, is looking to his left to Daniele, the car that he's just passing, maybe the nearest to De Jong as well. And then suddenly the blue car of Steph is in the middle of the track. Great avoidance there to send his car over the grass and avoid him. At the moment, he's trying to avoid losing a position to De Jong. De Jong trying it on the outside of Sunset Bend. Not able to make it stick yet.
Oh, but a little bit wide on exit here from Mick Claridge as he struggles to get his right foot down. And the Frenchman says, thank you very much, as he moves himself into 8th now. Boy, that onboard looking back at the rear tires of Mick really showed you how close he got to the wall, but it switches back in favor of Mick. He pulls the same move that the Frenchman pulled on him through Sunset Bend. And all this messing around behind them has allowed Gattuso to close up, but I think if they could just settle down, they should pull away.
Yeah, exactly. I think these two almost have to work together and try to look forward, because they can better. I think they're both having amazing fun, as we see De Jong trying it. Oh, sliding. Claridge sliding there on the hairpin on the outside. This is really difficult, De Jong. Can you take more speed? No, he can't. Mick Claridge able to use a sort of shorter track length. Defend his position there.
Nearly touching wheels through Big Pen. Those two, I agree with you. They're having just a little bit of fun, knowing that really there's no good results on paper for them today unless something drastic happens. That is Jeffrey Eli, who holds up both of them. This is hard to pass through this part of the track. He is a lap down, so that was not for position, but they both managed to get through.
It's a difficult position to let your cars go by for Jeffrey there. Didn't change the positions between Mick and Michel though.
And they've got about 7.5 seconds up to Benzoka, so it is a long way. And if they keep battling this hard, they might not catch the Australian, actually.
Yeah, exactly. So then this battle that they're continuously having with each other will be very important at the end of the race, because it determines who finishes P8. Who finishes P2 might be settled at the moment. Dave Price and Dimitrios haven't been this close in a little while. As they're going over the start-finish straight towards turn 1 now. Dimitrios not having the run to make a move there. But the Greek driver, Joe, he's looking left and right to make a move on Dave Price.
Oh, you are right. Just look at how tight up behind him he is now. And a defensive move from Price shows that he knows he is under threat behind them if they start battling. Ove Trangrade waiting to pick up the pieces. They work their way out of 5 into the difficult Big Bend. These cars squirming all over the place to try and get the power down through this long right-hander. Taking a peek to the inside. Here comes Dimitrios. He sends it up. Can he make it off the corner? That's the question, though. Trying to get his right foot down. Dave Price takes a peek, but I think that pass is done.
That was absolutely beautiful, Dimitrios. The way you sent that car on the inside there, got it slowed down just in time to make it to the apex. World-class maneuver there to get P2. Ovi Trangrade immediately trying to take a look on Dave Price as well, because maybe Ovi knows that he is as quick as Dimitrios. With Dave Price between them, the Greek driver can drive away in P2 at the moment. Dave Price going a little bit wide. Ooh, this opens the door for Ovi Trangrade, but he squirms when he puts the throttle on.
Thankfully, they're not going to be too wide here through Bishop, as this one is so difficult. They get in line, but this has backed them into the car of Marco Kika, as he starts licking his chops, thinking maybe he could get to the podium.
Yeah, exactly. Well, this is what we always talk about with the popcorn position. While Marco is stuffing his mouth full with popcorn at the moment. Dimitrios and Ovi a little bit stretched away from each other though, but Dave and Ovi. Look at Dimitrios immediately. That's a gap of over a second already that the Greek driver has on Dave.
Oh yeah, he has been let off the leash for sure. And let's see if maybe he can chase down Gaspers now that he is free. In the meantime, Trangrade has not been able to do anything despite a few opportunities on Dave Price as they come towards turn 1. Price taking a very wide entry. This is another one. If Ove could just get the power down, he's pinched down low. Both of them finding difficulty trying to get on the throttle, and still the positions are going to stay the same. Dave Price in 3rd, Trangrade 4th, and Kika in 5th.
It was almost like Overtrained wasn't as confident on the braking as Dimitrios was earlier. He just backed out even though he had the inside and he was slightly side by side. He could have tried to move there, but he chose to go behind his rival through the SS section. Now he doesn't have the speed at the moment to try and move in the hairpin. Squirms a little bit under braking. Now he has a great run out of the hairpin though. This is an amazing speed that he has. Looking left, looking right. Not able to put it side by side, Joe.
I was going to say, the question is how close can he stay through that S's section? Once again, a little bit of a defensive maneuver from Dave Price. Despite many mistakes, Dave has done a good job of holding him back. I'm actually quite impressed. I mean, for a number of laps, he was able to keep Dimitrios behind him. And you have to think it's looking like he's going to do the same to the Norwegian.
Exactly. Well, Dave Price has shown that he is an incredible defensive driver. He's really able to keep his car as wide as possible and preventing other people from passing him. And well, if you can keep your car wide here, it's so difficult to make a move. Though he makes a little bit of a mistake here out of Le Mans, and that causes Overtrained to immediately catch up to him right in the gearbox in the region. Stays there as long as possible. Now he dives to the inside. Dave Price isn't defending this time as they approach sunset.
Got his nose in, and as this is happening, we had an incident a little bit farther back. We'll check on that in a second. Has he got it done? I think Ove finally does, but Dave Price is going to try to use that extra momentum from the outside to swing through on the inside of turn 1. Still side by side, gets chopped off at the nose by Tranqueray, but he starts to lose it over the bumps around the outside. Price comes back down into turn 3. They make contact, banging wheels down into the left-hander. Still side by side, neither willing to give up. Through 4 and 5, and Dave Price denies him once again.
Wow, what a defensive drive of Dave Price there. One more time, towards the hairpin, through Big Bend there. Overtrained is squirming a little bit on the throttle, trying it on the outside. Dimitrios tried it here, but he failed. He had a great exit here though, he has it again, but he cannot go past as Dave Price once again defends the inside.
Great stuff there. Now, I believe there's possibly contact between Mick and Michel Dudignon. Oh, and I've still got action going on here. No, we're good now.
Yeah, you were absolutely right. Michel and Dudignon and Mick Claridge had contact through Le Mans, I think it was. Mick Claridge, as you can see the front car here, he went a little bit slidey, but it might also have been that Dudignon braked a little bit too late. Anyway, it doesn't matter who was at fault because both cars were sent towards the wall. And the good news is though that both of them can continue and are actually battling side by side at the moment. As they're driving just behind Tony Teolis, but this has sent them down the order quite a bit. Currently they're driving at P13 and P14. Now these are not the places that you would expect these two drivers being when we started this race, Joe.
And you saw there on screen Dudignon with a big mistake into tower is going to cost him some time. All those drivers they drove past, they got to do it all over again. Teolis is wondering, how the heck did you guys get behind me again?
And they're surely having some fun out there. Overtrained probably less fun with the big slide he just had going through Sunset Bend. And you can see immediately that Dave Price has created a gap towards the Norwegian. Again, a big slide into turn 1.
Ove is looking all out of sorts. Not sure what setup he's using out there, but this car incredibly loose in the corners. Well, we don't have to go to it, but I do want to make mention that... And we've had some more contact between Claridge and Dudignon. Oh, no, it was with Teolis. Heading near the Sunset Bend.
Yeah, it was Mick Claridge who got out of shape, lost a lot of speed there, and Tony Teolis wasn't able to avoid the British driver anymore. Just gave him a little lick on the side of the car.
There, we got the replay now. You saw that Dudignon was able to get through on Teolis. Just swung a little wide. This has been a scary race for Mick.
Absolutely, but the good news is that he is able to continue currently just behind Tony Teolis and Michel Dudignon in P14.
I kind of wonder if Michel has a bit of damage because I've seen him out of sorts in a couple corners now. That is very uncharacteristic for the Frenchman. He might be struggling with a little bit of suspension damage the way they went side by side. As I mentioned before, I was about to mention, Billy Bob Wright, remember, he had a problem earlier on and has tried to recover. He's got himself up to 9th right now, a little ways up to Daniel Gattuso, but his recovery's been decent. He's just got a ways to go, and he's got 8 laps to go at this point, so there is still time out there on the track for him to try and gain a few.
Yeah, with the speed that Billy Bob has been showing the last laps, I think that he'll be able to catch the back of Daniele Gattuso and make that move for P8 out there. Now that battle for P3 that we saw earlier, Dave Price over Trangrate, Marco Kika and Gary Thiel. Look at the elastic between the drivers. It's like almost they're stretching out a little bit before they're released and pushed back together. There's quite a sizable gap of almost half a second between each of the drivers at the moment. Dave Price.
Sorry, on screen we watched Ove Trangrate get nearly completely sideways through turn 3, and well, the gap that you mentioned has now shrunk and Kiko's on his gearbox.
Exactly. Well, if you make mistakes like this, the elastic will release itself really quickly. Marco Kika not able to make a move yet down to the hairpin.
Just not quite close enough to try and send one up the inside. They do have Gary Thiel now in the mix. Thiel's been a bit of a quiet runner back there. Let's see if he can make a little more noise in this race and maybe attempt some moves to get into the top 5.
Just the fans of Hideki Koifisto might have wondered why he lost 2 positions recently. He had a spin going into turn 1 this lap around. He lost 2 positions. Michel de Jong and Stef Veenhoff both got past him. Hideki Koifisto currently in P12.
Really haven't said a whole lot about Hideki in this race. Used to mentioning him a little bit more, but not a bad job out of 20 starters. We have had a number of DNFs today. Bogdan Dumitrescu is outdone good. Richard Morin and Johnny Bell have all called it a day. The last driver out there, Jeffrey Eli.
And it might be interesting to mention that with Matt Wright not being here, it's really a battle between Hideki Koifisto and Stef Veenhoff for the lead in the Formula 2 Championship. Hideki, who was P2 in that championship going into this race, with Stef currently leading him, I think that Stef Veenhoff will take that lead in the Formula 2 Championship.
Nick Claridge seems to be having some trouble here. He was on the back of Koivisto and then suddenly found himself off track through Jean Debienne and has now lost the spot back to Teolis. Maybe both he and Dudagnon have some damage on their cars as they work their way through Sunset Bend. Go ahead.
After the race, I wouldn't be surprised if they have a little bit of worse handling that they're used to with how everything went. Ovid Trangrate at the moment is trying a move on Dave Price, going towards the hairpin. Dave Price slightly defending the inside. Norwegian looking on the outside, trying to take a wider line and a better exit. Not able to put it side by side here yet, Joe.
Yeah, the UK&I driver is really just holding everyone he can at bay. He wants this podium. Stays to the inside, down into Cunningham, moves back to the racing line, knowing that he's got ahead. He stayed ahead of Ove Trangrate. Now sweeping through Collier. Oh, behind them we might have a battle start to erupt because Kika has Gary Thiel getting ever closer in the mirrors. Through Tower they go, but a bad exit is going to deny Gary Thiel another opportunity.
Gary Thiel's having a good race out there so far. He started in P8, currently in P6, and with the speed that he's currently showing, he might be able to get a top 5 position out there today. Yeah, like you said, a bad exit like that won't help his chances to make an overtake. Dave Price has a really bad exit coming onto the back straight, though. Over Trangrate immediately in his gearbox. Now this is your chance, Trangrate. He looks on the inside. Dave Price not able to defend it there. He has to try it here in Sunset Bend. Dave Price breaks a little bit earlier and Over Trangrate gets that P3 position.
We've seen this story before. He made the pass here last time and Price got him back. But this time he is well ahead out of Sunset Bend. Ove Trangrate finally up to P3 after many laps of trying.
Yeah, this must feel like justice for the Norwegian, but he's only 3.5 seconds behind Dimitrios in P2. Yeah, with only 5 laps to go, that's quite a big deficit to really fight your way back. Currently looking to defend himself to Dave Price.
Oh, and Billy Bob, we wondered if he can make any more progress. Well, he's caught Gattuso and he's passed him. So that number 10 slips back down to 9th. Let's see how this one happened. Looks like through Sunset Bend. Ooh, big bobble there from Gattuso around the outside, catches it and has to relinquish it. Now, we mentioned, we wondered if Dimitrios could catch Gaspers. Well, the German has pace over everyone because that gap is now up to 7 seconds between first and second place.
Yeah, it's almost it's almost like they're driving in a different category. David Gaspers has incredible speed out there today. Looking at his lap times, he's just comfortably driving 58s, while the rest of the competitors have to settle for 59s. Really, really strong performance of David Gaspers here. But I think also from Dimitrios, he had to deal with a very hard defending Dave Price, Joe, and he got by him and really made the most of that gap, made the most of the fact that he got past Dave Price and has created a nice bit of a buffer towards over-triangulate.
Certainly has. So he should be able to get that solid second place, and that'll help him not only in this championship, but we haven't talked about the combined championship that they're running between the SRF and the Lotus 49 this season. Johan?
No, exactly. Well, David Gaspers, of course, is leading that one as well. He's currently very strong in both the Lotus 49 and in the SRF. Dimitrios is second in that one as well. So yeah, P2 out there today really help his chances in the championship as well. Gary Aravi, he's not out there today, but he's currently third in that championship between the SRF and the Lotus 49.
Used to seeing McAreevy over in the Weekend Warriors series that we cover here on the Global Sim Racing channel as we continue to watch this battle on screen. Trangarade, even though he's gotten past Price, has not been able to leave him behind. So this train continues, just in a slightly different order, but now with only 4 laps to go. Meanwhile, I understand Venhoff had a bit of a spin.
Yeah, in the last corner, he just lost control there as we go to a replay. And this hurt his chances because he was leading Hideki Koivisto and he would be able to grab the lead in the Formula 2 Championship. As it stands now, he won't be able to do that in the finish drive and will bump himself towards P1 there.
He's very lucky to get that car wound up. He was heading towards the barriers in a hurry, but it managed to stop in time, so no contact made, able to continue on. There we see the two of them. Koivisto now leading Venhoff. And the good news for Steph is it's only about 1.6 seconds between them. He could still try to run him down and get that position back.
On screen at the moment, Dave Price is not settling for P4. He wants that podium position back to over-triangulate. Very close together towards the back straight at the moment.
Boy, both these drivers are feisty today. And you can see getting close behind them in that battle for 5th as Marco Kika has Gary Teal now looking to the inside, even down into Sunset Bend. Tries to outbrake him. They're going to go side by side through the kink on the entry. Way wide out there for Marco Kika. Tries to reel it back in. Maybe looking for an over-under, but there is nothing doing there as finally Gary Teal gets himself into 5th.
Now I'm really curious to the speed of Gary Teal. Now he has a little bit of a gap towards Dave Price and over-triangulate. Will he be able to close that gap and even try to fight for P4? But I think that with 3 positions that he won so far today, he's probably very happy with his performance.
No racing driver has ever settled with where they are if there's cars ahead of them. I'm sure Gary Teal is going to fight hard to get ahead. Now, we saw Gary Teal actually a fierce defender as well last week. And we understand that Michel Dudignon has made a little bit of progress up to 9th now, has recently got past Gattuso. Oh, that's the fastest lap.
Yeah, exactly, a 58.1. He's currently setting the same lap times as David Gaspers has been running for a while now. What could have been, he's probably wondering with that speed.
Well, I can't imagine that he's too damaged if he does have any, if he's going that fast out there.
And only 1 second behind Billy Bob, that probably he'd be looking forward to elevate himself towards P8.
I think Billy Bob is stalled out here in that 8th spot. He's got about 6 seconds up to Zoka with only 3 laps left to go. Like you said, Dudignon now behind him, and very much on a tear. This could be easy pickings for the Frenchman. So if you're just joining us here towards the end of round 2 of the Lotus 49 World Cup, a little bit of an update of where the top 5 stand. David Gaspers put it on the pole, has not looked back since the start of the race, leading by about 5.7 seconds. So Dimitrios had a hard time trying to pry that second place away from Dave Price. Once he did, it's been a very slow chipping away at the lead. 5.9 seconds between them now. Just does not have enough time to try and gain the ground. Ove Trangrade got himself onto the podium, having qualified 5th. He also had to deal with Dave Price, who is now down into 4th and about 2 seconds ahead of Gary Thiel. So Thiel may have gotten past Marco Kika recently, but certainly doesn't seem to have the pace to keep up with the cars ahead.
No, Thiel was almost a second slower than Dave Price last time around, and I don't think with 2 laps to go he will be able to, 1, close the gap, and 2, pass him. P8 Michel Doudillon has closed the gap to Billy Bob Wright as they go towards the Esther section. With 2 laps to go, the Frenchman wants to try and pass Billy Bob as soon as possible. And I think that will be the last move forward that he will make today, Joe.
But we know Billy Bob has mentioned that he tends to defend every position he can. He does not like to give them up. And I think you're going to see that here as he's going to stay to the inside. Yes, indeed. Oh, no, he swings out to the outside line, all the way out to the grass. Doudillon is going to have a look in, down into the hairpin. What can Billy Bob do around the outside? We've seen it is hard to defend from that position. And yet again, he's got to give it up.
Beautiful move from Doudillon. Really good commitment from him. Like, he looked on the inside and he knew, like, I'm going to place my car there, brake perfectly towards the apex and make the move stick for P8.
Oh, wow. What did Dimitrios make a mistake? He was well ahead of Trangrade just a moment ago. Oh, and he's giving it up. Did he have a slowdown?
Yeah, I think so. He went wide in, I think, Collier it was last time around, and with the pace that he currently has, it looks like a slowdown. Over Trangrade to P2.
Oh, that has got to be gutting. He's actually off the podium after that. Dave Price back up into 3rd as well. So, Ove Trangrade, he was only able to qualify as fast as 5th position, and yet he is going to look at a 2nd place because the white flag is out. All he has to do is hold on for 1 more lap.
But he still has half a second behind in Dave Price, and Dimitrios is probably on a warpath after making that mistake, wanting to regain that podium position.
Oh, as the red mist down, how aggressive is the Greek going to be? Comes up to the back of Dave Price. He had to deal with him once. It took him a lot of laps to try and get by. He's got much fewer this time to attempt anything. And with the gap that he sees up to him, he's got to really hustle, I think, if he wants to do anything here.
Yeah, exactly. It's almost, is it worth it to really take a little bit more risk, try to get a little bit more speed here, but then at the same time, Gary Thiel isn't that far behind in P5, so you risk making another mistake and him passing you. Greek driver not able to close it that much towards Dave Price yet. Dave Price looking a little bit closer to Ove Trangrade, but still 7/10. I think that's a little bit too much, Joe, to really make a difference.
We've seen these drivers are all very close on pace, or at least Price and Trangrade are, as they've not been able to get away from one another. Battle behind them as Gary Thiel and Marco Kika were going at it, but Thiel is able to defend successfully around the outside of Tower.
Marco Kiko got a great look in there, trying to make that move, but he doesn't make it stick yet.
The number 1 car in position 1. This is the man that has shown he is the force to be reckoned with. David Gaspers, the German, comes around Sunset Bend, led every lap of the race from pole to flag to the line. David Gaspers going to win 2 for 2 here in the Lotus 49 World Cup.
Ove Trangrade really loose through the last corner. Will he be able to settle it? Dave Price putting it side by side. Dave Price overtaking him on the exit of the last corner. Dave Price gets P2 out there.
Great stuff by him. Gary Thiel is going to get 5th ahead of Marco Kika. The last corner on the last lap. Trangrade got to be kicking himself.
It's not over yet. Hideki Koivisto and Stef Veenhoff, they're currently battling in P12 and P13. Remember, this is for the lead of the F2. Stef Veenhoff taking a lot of risk out of the last corner on the back straight, losing all the momentum that he had. Currently, he has to set off a P13.
Oh, it's not over yet. Oh, very early braking for Koivisto, though. Or is that very late braking for Veenhoff? As they come around the corner, he's going to still try it. He looks for the exit. He's actually got a little bit of momentum, but it's too little too late.
He really gave it everything he had in the last corner. You could see how late he braked there, but just not enough to beat the Finnish driver for P12.
I'd love to see that in a driver for 12th place and still giving it everything. Meanwhile, we're going to look at this pass one last time. Just a mistake in the last corner. This goes to show that even though these cars are tough, Johan, you got to be perfect out there to get these top spots.
Yeah, exactly. And this is so heartbreak for Ove Trangerade. He was so quick out there, but he made a few of these mistakes, and just in the last corner of the last lap, one mistake too much, and it's, yeah, barely a nose whiff. Dave Price was in front of him at the end there.
Heartbreak for Trangerade, but boy, celebration for the number 7 of Dave Price's. We go to break here on the Global Sim Racing channel. We'll come back with the official results as well as driver interviews. And on your screen, you're going to see all the upcoming races here on the GSRC. Welcome back to Sebring International Raceway. We just watched round 2 of the Lotus 49 World Cup. This one definitely should go down as a classic for the series. Even though the lead was really never challenged, boy, the podium was one of the most epic battles I feel like we've ever seen. I know that word is overused, but it is fitting here. And there you can see Gaspers taking the win, continuing his gap in the points. But Dave Price, we were talking over the break, he earned that second place. Not the perfect race that he would have hoped for, made some mistakes out there, but he did it when it counted. And Ove Trangerade losing second in the very last corner of the race. Gonna have to settle for third. Still a gain of positions for him. Dimitrios Houdalouris also got to be kicking himself a little bit. That slowdown penalty caused him to suffer. He had second place essentially wrapped up, but slipped down to 4th in the end. Gary Thiel gets himself a top 5 ahead of Marco Kika. Those two probably should have gotten more screen time, but it was hard with that podium battle just raging all race long. Benjamin Zocco gets himself into 7th ahead of Michel Dudignon, only able to recover to 8th after starting from the back of the field and having a problem on the first lap. Billy Bob Wright gets 9th, also having a problem on the first lap. And Mick Claridge, qualified on the front row, settles for a top 10.
Yeah, behind Mick Claridge, but unluckily in P11, Daniele Guttuso was one of the drivers making not a lot of mistakes out there, but just not able to stay in front of the people that make mistakes and fell down the order a bit. We saw heavy battling up front. We saw also heavy battling in the top, further down the top 20. Hideki Koifisto and Stef Feenhoff fought it out for the lead in the Formula 2 Championship, with the Finnish driver just in front of the Dutch driver in P12 and P13. Tony Teolus, who had contact at the beginning of the race with Richard Morin, settled his car, brought it home, not even a lap down on the lead lap in P14, and he finished just in front of Andres Bruno. And there were 5 drivers that did not finish on the lead lap out there today. Jeffrey A. Eli finished 4 laps down in 16th, Johnny Bell 7 laps down in 17th, and then there were 3 drivers that retired before the finish flag drop: Richard Morin, Don Good, and Bogdan M. Dumitrescu in 20th position.
We have our winner waiting to talk to us, David Gaspers, joining us in the booth now. David, you're looking a little bit like young Sebastian Vettel out there, starting it from the pole, dominating the race, and taking it all the way to the flag. How does that feel?
Well, like, exciting wouldn't be a way to describe the race. But yeah, after the incident in lap 1, I just tried to not destroy the car, and it worked pretty good.
Now, the good news for you is obviously not only does it mean that you're going to extend your lead in this championship in the Lotus 49 World Cup, but the combined championship, the SRF and the Lotus 49 that they're running this season. Are you thinking about that at all? Are you considering maybe you'd like to win that one, or are you just putting it out of your mind and just racing race to race?
Yeah, I want to win the combined one. I've been fighting for the Spec Racer Championship for a couple of seasons now. So yeah, since I'm doing good in this car so far, I want to go for the combined one.
Now, what are the main similarities that you notice between these two vehicles? Because obviously you figured out something in both of them.
I don't really think there are any similarities. In the Spec Racer, you have to really play with the throttle a lot to keep the car straight. And here you have to just brake really early to try not to slide at all and not to overheat the tires, and try to accelerate as good as possible.
Well, next race, we head to the opposite coast over to Sonoma in this car. I assume that's probably going to be a new combination for you, the Lotus 49 at Sonoma Cup.
I have never seen the track so far, so yeah, I don't know what to expect from it.
All right, well, maybe that'll give you a little bit more challenge with your competitors. Congratulations on win 2 out of 2.
Thank you.
It's David Gaspers, our winner out there today. And now Johan is going to be talking to what I expect is going to be a very riled up Dave Price.
I think so as well. It's one of the drivers that we saw the most on screen today. Dave Price, welcome in the booth. Justice, how happy are you with the P2? You really fought for it, and you finally got it in the end.
Yeah, hi. Can you hear me? I've got no
perfect.
sound.
Nope. Oh, I can hear you. Can you hear us? I don't think Dave Price can hear us. Maybe we can move him back afterwards a little bit, and then can Mick Claridge join us very quickly for an interview as well. Mick Claridge, you, we're used to having you up front during the race. You had P2, you started very well, but unfortunately with some contact, you fell down the order a little bit. How was it out there for you? How difficult was it fighting through the field, and especially with Michel Dudignon next to you all the time?
It was such a fun race, you know. Yeah, that was my fault in turn 2, is it, or whatever it is, where I pinched Dave into the apex there. He didn't have any room, so yeah, so it was just my back wheel went over the front of his front wheel, and that was it. I actually tried to balance the car on 2 wheels when it went up like that. I always do it. It's something I always try, you know. If the car ever goes up on 2 wheels, I want to try and hold it as long as I can, you know.
Exactly. Well, it was a shame that it spun you around, but it was good to see at least that you enjoyed battling with Michel Dudillon as much as you did. We were wondering at one point, because you actually had some contact with him during the race. Were you suffering from damage at one point because of those contacts, or was your car relatively unscathed afterwards?
No, when I mean, we had such a amazing battle. Coming through cars that was spinning, and at one point we were both on the grass and we were still fighting each other. Trying to get back on the track and get in front, but and one point he just burst out laughing on the mic, and it made me laugh. At a few points in that race, I couldn't really drive from laughing. Because it was just such a fun race. It was just bizarre. And then when I lost the back end coming down at that back straight, and he really didn't have anywhere to go. It was the same sort of thing as Dave, but we weren't alongside each other. It was sort of my mistake that forced the error that he couldn't sort of slow down in time to not hit me. So I don't know if I had damage. It just sort of felt, I don't know, it felt weird. It sort of sometimes you get damage. You probably know yourself. You get a bit of damage, and the car's sort of good around left-handers and bad around right-handers and stuff like that. And I think that was going on, and I was thinking to myself, I wish it was the other way around. I think it was, I wish it was really good on the right-handers now and rubbish in the lefts, because I'd be all right,
Yeah. I mean, it's a shame that it happened to you, but at least, well, the car was okay. But we saw a lot of people struggling today. You were not the only one who was having trouble keeping the car on track. We saw people all throughout the field sliding a lot. Were the weather conditions very difficult today that make the car even more difficult on this track, or was there some other factor that might have caused a lot of people having trouble to keep it in a straighter line today?
I think it's a combination of a few things. I think the weather actually helped today. Everyone's been practicing, in like 107 degrees and 109 degrees and all that up there. So the track's been hotter than it was in that race. But it's just the way you have to set the car up these days. You have to set it up so loose to get it to turn. When you get on the power, it just snaps. And you can't hold slides and stuff. I don't want to moan about the car and the tyres and all the rest of it, but bring on new tyre model 7,
Excellent. But let's keep our fingers crossed for that. Mick Claridge, you were a joy to watch on the broadcast, at least, especially that battle that you had with Michel Dudillon. That was one for the ages. You had great pace. Shame it was P10 out there today, but we hope to see you again next week.
Yeah, it was just good fun. I just want to say thanks to Hideki Quivisto for painting my car for me. Cheers, Hideki.
Yeah, it looks really, really good. We'll be keeping an eye on it next week. It was Mick Claridge coming home, starting in P2 and coming home only in P10 after some misery during the race, as you could just hear. Now, I heard that you caught up with Dave Price once again, Joe. He's talking to you at the moment.
We got his mic working finally. And Dave, we were talking about how much screen time you were getting. It had to have been some fun out there for you, because, boy, you fought hard for that second place. Oh, unfortunately, there we know. Now we got you. Go ahead, Dave.
Yeah, it was a hot race. It was really hot here in the UK, and I was sweating away, fighting with Ove as usual, and yeah, it was a lot of fun. I couldn't catch up with Mr. Gaspers. That fella is just a bit too quick, but always good battling with Ove. And I don't know what happened to Dimitri. He seemed to pull away and then suddenly came back to us. So I don't know if he'd had an issue.
Now, we saw both you and Ove were sliding quite a bit, going wide into a lot of corners. Is the weather, we understand, was pretty good out there. Do you attribute that more to the bumps? What was causing so many drivers to look very loose?
I think I kind of debated before the race which tyre pressures to go with, and it felt to me sort of about a third of the way through the race that I was overheating my tyres. I suddenly lost pace, and Dimitri got past me, and then over, and I was really struggling. It seemed to improve as the race went on, but it's a funny track temperature that you kind of, it's a bit between two ideal pressures, and I went with the slightly higher pressures, which worked well early in the race, but then you have a tendency to overheat as the race goes on. So I don't know if that was the same for Ove, but it was pretty slippery, and certainly in the concrete sections, it's really bumpy, and it's very hard to predict your own line, never mind anyone else's through there. So you have to be pretty careful.
Now, talk us through that last corner through Sunset Bend where you took second place away from Ove. What was going through your head as that happened?
Don't crash. That's what was going through my head. Yeah, I had a little bit of a run on him as we came into the corner, but as I was just saying, it's so difficult to be consistent with your line through there for, either for yourself or the guy you're racing with. And, I didn't want to, end up chucking into the side of him or as crashing in the last corner. So I decided I'd just try and keep it tidy, keep a nice tight line. And then if he had any issues, I'd have an opportunity to capitalise on the exit. And then I saw him have a great big slide. My smile lit up. And, I was able to get the power down a little bit better than him on the exit and beat him on the run to the line. So, great fun.
One of the great feelings in racing, snagging that position at the last opportunity. Well, congratulations on second. This will certainly give you a nice points haul in the championship.
Yeah, thanks very much, guys. Thanks, Joe. And thanks for your excellent coverage. Yeah, we'll appreciate it in the series and see you next week.
Thank you very much. That was Dave Price, our second place finisher today. We got to close up, get poor Amjad out of here. He's got a long day ahead of him. Of course, we want to thank Ben Zoko and the entire Lotus 49 community for coming together and bringing us back for another season of coverage. And a big thank you to the companies that provide the software and hardware for our broadcasts you see listed here on your screen. Additional thanks go to Eric Ekholm and Casey Lalonde, who provide our wonderful music. See the screen for how to get a hold of more of their great work. Thanks to the team today, Johan, Amjad, and Dougie. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, including upcoming races, you can find it at globalsimracingchannel.com. You can also check us out on social media. We're on Twitter at GSR Channel, on Facebook at Global Sim Racing Channel, and Instagram at GSRC_Grand. Also, if you head over to our YouTube page, there's a big red button that says subscribe. If you click that, you won't miss a moment here on the GSRC. So head on over there when you get a chance. The next race, as we mentioned, we are going to California for Sonoma. It'll be the layout that the NASCAR Cup cars run. So that'll be interesting. So that'll be Saturday, June 30th at 9:30 a.m. Eastern. We also have upcoming races for other series listed on the screen. So check those out and mark them down on your calendar. However, until next time, race clean, race hard. See you on the track.